Okay, here's a little demo that I'm going to use some beans to explain 4 different mechanisms of evolution. So please remember that evolution is a change in gene frequencies in a population over time, and that's it. It's not survival of the fittest. It's not have any kind of purpose. It's just saying that if the gene frequency in a population changes over time, then evolution has happened. So our population in this case, we're going to use this bucket of beans. I have some red beans in there and some black beans in there, and you're just going to take my word for it that it's 50% red, 50% black. Mutation. Let's say in our population of beans, okay, look at some beans here. There's a mutation, change of an A and a T and a codon, and now all of a sudden you have a different shaped bean show up. Those are lentils. I absolutely hate lentils. I think they taste like cement. But I have nothing against people who like lentils. My wife loves them. But anyway, and now the frequency of genes in this population has changed as a result of these new members showing up. These new members that don't look like anything like the other ones. So before these members were there, I just grabbed these guys out, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 beans, and 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are black. So the frequency of black beans in this population is 4 out of 14. And now if I change the population and I have mutation, these 4 black beans change to lentils, okay, as a result of a mutation. The percentage of black beans in this population has gone to 0 instead of 4 out of 14. So that has changed from one generation to the next, and a change in gene frequencies from one generation to the next is a definition of evolution. So mutation is one way that populations can change. Let's talk about genetic drift. This is one of my favorites because I think it's just super cool to think about this. And it also points out the idea that there's no purpose behind evolution. It's just random events and then sometimes non-random events like in natural selection. So in genetic drift, we have 50-50 in our original population. Not everybody in the population is going to get to mate each year, and that can be for random reasons. Let's say you get stuck in an island, or something falls on your house, and or let's say you get hit by a bus. For random reasons, not everyone in the population is going to mate, and not everyone in the population is going to be ready to mate. So randomly, a certain group of individuals can get selected from the populations, and those individuals get to mate. So it's 50-50 in the original population, and I just randomly picked a group out of here, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 beans, red beans, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 black beans and 9 red beans. That is 23 beans altogether. 9 out of 23 are red, and 14 out of 23 are black. This is not 50-50. You would expect an equal number if it was 50-50, but it came from a population that was 50-50. So if I just randomly select out of that population, I will change the gene frequency in the next generation just from random forces. I'm going to say, reaching into this pot and saying, I want more black beans than red beans. It just happened randomly. Let's try that again. Let's just take another random pick out of there. Throw them back in there, mix them up, take another little random pick and drop them on here. And now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 red beans and 4 black beans. 4 out of 12 are black, 8 out of 12 are red. So now in the second pick, red is more frequent, has higher gene frequency than in the last pick, and black has a lower gene frequency than in the last pick. In the last pick, black was more frequent as a gene than red was. So just by randomly selecting who gets to mate out of the population, you can change gene frequencies pretty dramatically from generation to generation. This tends to have less of an effect in really big populations and more of an effect in really small populations. Okay, let's say this was our population. Okay, this is a really small population, and I randomly picked out of here, and I randomly picked these 2 black beans. Now, in one generation, I have eliminated the red beans. They go from 50% of the population to 0. And that can happen when gene populations get really small, when populations get really small number of members, and you're randomly selecting who gets to mate. You could randomly pick just one kind of allele and eliminate the other allele. That's called a bottleneck effect. And this is part of why conservation organizations get really upset and worried when endangered species get to be really low populations, endangered. It's because the amount of genetic variability that they have to pick from goes down, and you can have events where you just lose genes that might help that organism survive. Gene flow. Let's say we have 2 populations, this one and this population, and they're separated by a mountain, something like that. Okay, so this population can't get over here, and this population can't get over here, and this population has a certain gene frequency, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 black, and this one has a different gene frequency, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 red, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 black. Look at that, 50-50 in this population, but not 50-50 in this population. Okay, over time this mountain wears down, and now this population can mix. Now they are mating with each other, and you have one big population. Okay, the genes are flowing from one population to another, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 black, 15 red. Not quite 50-50. So not the same gene frequencies as our original 2 populations when they're separated, and when they come together, they aren't the same gene frequencies. The gene frequencies have changed over generations. That's called gene flow. Now, I could have done the same thing if I just had these separated and I just had one individual that made it over the mountain, and that would change the gene frequencies in this population anyway. So gene frequency changing because of migration into or out of a population, that's gene flow. And our last example, natural selection. This is the one that you would have heard about, and you might even think of natural selection as being all there is to evolution. Okay, so let's say this is our population of beans. And in this population of beans, we're planting all these beans. Beans are just seeds, and we're planting them in the garden. And for some basis that is based on a genetic difference, the red beans tend to sprout much earlier, grow much faster than the black beans, because it's Northeast Ohio, or because it's a really wet winter, or soil conditions are just right for. So in this particular season, red beans have an advantage. They get to grow tall early, they get to reproduce early, and they get to produce seeds much early, and they leave more progeny for the next generation. So in the next generation, there are fewer black beans and more red beans. And if in the next generation the red beans have another good season, then again they reproduce more than the black beans, and the black beans do not as well as the red beans in terms of how many seeds that they can produce. And over time you'll see that the frequency of the alleles that causes the red bean goes up over time, because the red beans had a natural advantage. They could germinate earlier in the season. They could take advantage of the sunlight better than the black beans could. And so they could reproduce faster, and therefore they have an advantage. Now, conditions could change in that there's a drought. And in drought, black beans do really, really well, and red beans do terribly in a drought. And in this drought, almost all the red beans get wiped out. And the black beans do super well. And so now you have a higher frequency of black beans and red beans. And the red beans do much worse. Again, this is just a change in gene frequency over generations. It's not that red is good and black is bad. It's how they're responding to their environment. They have a certain genotype. They have certain alleles that may give them an advantage in some environments and not in other environments. And when those environments show up, they have an advantage, and their allele frequencies go up. And when different environments show up, they have an advantage, and those allele frequencies go up. If you look outside at your lawn this time of year is probably mostly green. But in a month or so, when we don't get any rain for late July to early August, it might turn brown. And so if you're a green colored bug this time of year, then you're doing really well, because you can hide really well among the grass. Harder for a robin to pick you off because you blend in really well. But now if you're a bright green bug and the grass has turned brown, now you stand out, and now you're not doing so well. So gene frequencies can go up or down. They don't always go in one direction, but if they change at all from one generation to the next, that's an example of evolution. Just a change in gene frequencies in a population across generations.